What's the delay right now?
I have no idea.
And welcome everybody to the Huddle. It's K9's streaming sports program. It's seen on all of our digital channels. I'm Jason Barr, joined by Pat Parris on this Tuesday. Pat, how are you today?
Doing great, Jason. Ready to go.
A lot of good stuff to talk about. We are in the heart of the local sports season here as far as basketball is concerned. Certainly, heading into March Madness. Let's take a look at some of the topics we are going to cover today. Certainly, we're going to talk Arizona men's basketball and how well they are doing. I think we've got a screen up of those topics we're going to cover. There we go. Hey, are college hoops fans too rowdy? Is the Zona Zoo too nuts? It's not just Arizona. We'll go over that. Certainly, we'll talk some Arizona women's basketball. A couple of big wins for them. Revenge against Oregon. Kyler Murray unfollows the Cardinals on Instagram. What's that about? And we'll end it as we should, Pat, with some Super Bowl predictions. So let's start off with Arizona men's basketball. If you're a Wildcat fan, wow, was that fun last night. Going to ASU, they take the punch early, Pat. They're down 14-1. And after that, it was just dunk after lay-in after turnover, really taking it to ASU last night up in Tempe.
Well, and it was, that first 3 minutes, Jason, was a little rough. It was almost like, could this be one of those nights where Arizona finally just packs it in and says, all right, we're tired. It's not our night. Let's just move on. No, they fought back immediately. It was quickly tied again. And then that second half was amazing. And we're sitting here looking right now at the USC highs. So think about this, Jason. In just over a week, you've gone a home win against Arizona State, a home win against UCLA, a home win against USC, then on the road to go ASU. That's what, a 9-day span. You've just taken care of the top two other teams, maybe minus Oregon, in the Pac-12, and your rival twice. It's been a heck of a last 9 days for U of A basketball.
It sure has. By the way, if anybody wants to write in with comments or questions, like I say each week, if it's clean, we'll read them. And Pat, I want to talk about the front court. We thought going into the season, the front court was going to be a weakness, certainly with depth. The improvement in Christian Coloco and now Oumar Ballo, and how Azuolas Tubelis looks when he is healthy. They've been fantastic. The only glitch is they're missing Kim Aiken Jr., who's, I suppose, left the team for personal reasons, but they still have an 8-man rotation. But those three players who I mentioned, they are doing fantastic. And this front court is an absolute force for teams to go up against, the way these big guys can move and run the floor.
Yeah, and defend, too. Don't forget those shot blocking abilities of the 2 7-footers. But I love what Tommy Lloyd said last night after the game about Oumar Ballo. He said, a couple of weeks ago, we were hoping to get some good minutes out of Oumar Ballo and have him kind of pick up the slack when Coloco was out. Now we count on Ballo to be the guy that can come in when Coloco needs a break or gets in foul trouble, or when they decide to go, as Tommy Lloyd calls it, the Twin Towers, when he goes to 7-footers. Then you've got that great 7-foot inside-out game. It's almost unstoppable. They were talking about last night on Fox Sports 1. It's unstoppable. At times it can be, that's for sure.
Yeah, and if there was any positive of Azuolas Tubelis spraining his ankle, the minutes that Oumar Ballo got and the contribution that he made and the confidence that he is displaying on the court. And I love the way the front court and the whole team rebounded last night. Every single missed shot, there were like 3 Wildcats fighting for each other for the ball, and just a dominant physical force. I do think we got to get Kirk Kriisa a little bit back on track. He's been a little erratic, and the passing, which was so good a couple of weeks ago, hasn't been there. And so that gets exacerbated when his shot's not falling.
Yeah,
So, it's not like everything's perfect and everything's not going to be perfect. But overall, you're looking at a team that is 20-2. They've got a 2-game lead in the Pac-12. It's now theirs to lose as far as the regular season. And the schedule's going to be tough. They've got a lot of games in a short amount of days, with some stretches here coming up. But boy, this team is just really doing fantastic, and they've earned that number 4 ranking in the country.
Yeah, they sure have, and they're actually number 3 in that net ranking behind Gonzaga and Houston still. That
Which
is
would get
important
them,
too.
Pat, sorry to interrupt, a number 1
A
seed.
number 1 seed.
I
That was
think
going to be my
I
point.
think they would give Gonzaga the one in the West and move Arizona and give Arizona the one in the South if the season ended today.
I think you're exactly right. I think that's probably the scenario we'd see. I want to touch on what you're talking about. We always think about the 7-footers as being the big guys, but don't forget Azuolas Tubelis has got pretty good size too. And you mentioned that sprained ankle. I still don't think he's 100%. I still think he's getting closer
He's
though.
closer. He's close.
I thought he's looking at about 90% right now. But he wins Pac-12 Player of the Week playing 90% on a bad ankle. So they rushed him back because they really needed him. It was a tough stretch, but now he's you can see that slow last 10% building back and getting that ankle stronger. I think that's what's impressive about this team. As you just pointed out a couple of things. You want Kirk Kriisa to start shooting better and maybe handling the ball better. You get Tubelis back to 100% instead of 90%, and you see Oumar Ballo continue to improve the way he's improved. This team can be even better. That's what's exciting.
Love where they're at right now. All right, Pat, I went to a U of A ASU hockey game at the Tucson Convention Center. I was there for the first period, and I was close to where the ASU goalie was. The fans for U of A, nonstop, the whole first period, were ragging on this goalie. So part of me almost wasn't surprised when I saw what happened at McHale Center with the Zona Zoo nonstop against the UCLA players, and then the UCLA players spitting Mackie Tien on the, as we see right there, on the Arizona fan right there. Now, I do not want to imply that this is unique to Tucson or unique to the University of Arizona. This just went on in Chapel Hill, of all places, where it was Coach K's final game, Mike Krzyzewski at North Carolina. And instead of embracing that, apparently was Coach, I didn't see the game, but apparently was Coach K during the game. What do you account for this? Is this just maybe pent up energy of not being in the stands for a couple of years? You were saying that to me yesterday. Is that what you think?
Right.
It is?
I think that's part of it. I think we've always seen a level of animosity to certain degrees when it comes to a fanatical fan base like the Arizona Wildcats of Zona Zoo, or like in Chapel Hill, or with North Carolina Duke. And for Arizona basketball, it's not only ASU is your big rival, but UCLA is your big rival. And so it's no surprise that the last 2 home games with ASU, or 2 of the last 3 home games, ASU and then UCLA, you had a lot of unruliness going on in the Zona Zoo, and then we saw it last night at ASU that the curtain of distraction becomes a lot more than the curtain of distraction when the F-bombs are being thrown out, and you like to see when players can feed off of that, but you don't like to see when it gets under the player's skin and then they react like Etienne did. We got the police report, by the way, KGUN 9 did. The 2 students there, was a female and a male. The male in the report said to police, to U of A police, that Etienne actually spit on him at halftime and then spit on him again at the end of the game that we saw the video of. And the young lady there as well, they're both going to press charges. And now they're looking at things like, is during COVID spitting on somebody, is that, ratcheted up to even a higher level of assault?
This did start to go on a little bit at NBA arenas before COVID. COVID has just wiped so much stuff out of our mind. There's so much is going on in the last couple of years, you almost forget. But the NBA was having issues with this. So this, like I said, this is not unique to Tucson. No. It happened in Chapel Hill. It's not even unique to college basketball. It's easy for you and I, Pat, to say, oh, if you're a player, you can't react to that. But when you're 18, 19, 20 years old, and you're in the heat of the moment and in the heat of the battle, and you're a competitor, it is hard to hold yourself together and not retaliate. Maybe for a coach, and we've even seen coaches react. Maybe for a coach, it's a little bit easier as a grown man. He's seen and heard so many things. But that is hard, to not have any incidents, to not have any players react. And while spitting isn't wonderful, hey, better that than throwing something. I'm not saying spit, but this could have been a lot worse. I don't think the fan should press charges. Okay, that's just my opinion. You got spit on. Does that stink? First of all, we don't even know if he made contact. Okay, but you got spit on. Okay, you weren't punched in the eye. Let cooler heads prevail. I'm not sure if I would press charges in this situation, Pat.
Yeah, I don't know if I would either, Jason. I will say there's nothing more demeaning to someone than to spit on them. However, I think it's disgusting, and I think there's no place for it whatsoever. And I think ATN should be suspended. When he gets healthy again, maybe he has to sit out a couple of games. Maybe that's the route.
Yeah, but he doesn't
Maybe
need
the
a criminal
Pac-12
record.
No, and I agree, and it's a misdemeanor. I don't think it'll stick with him forever. I will say this. I know that Dave Hickey and Dr. Robbins have both talked to the Zona Zoo people, and they said, let's stop with the F-bombs. Let's keep it clean. We can get on these players. We can taunt them in different ways without all in unison chanting the F-bombs. And I'll say, going back to North Carolina Duke last night, if Dean Smith were there, I'm pretty sure Dean Smith might have grabbed the microphone and said, all right, knock it off. Let's.
Didn't we see Sam Weiss do that?
Well,
back in the
we
day?
also saw Bobby Knight do it, but remember Bobby Knight was because they were throwing stuff on the court, and he said, I don't care how terrible the officiating is, don't throw stuff on the court, and then he got teed up. Right. But you know what I'm saying? I think you got to show a little bit more class. You can despise Mike Krzyzewski as a head coach at Duke when you're a North Carolina fan, but you got to give him some respect. And chanting the F word, that to me is it's just too low. You just don't go down to that level.
All right, so that segues into our next topic, which is Arizona women's basketball, and certainly they're doing well. And right here we see the video of Kelly Graves and Adia Barnes. Here's what I think, Pat, after thinking about it for a couple days. I think Adia Barnes did Kelly Graves a big favor. This is a male calling a female the B word, okay? There's multiple reports that that's what he said during the last game. Had she made a big deal of this, Kelly Graves' name could have been dragged through the mud. And you're trying to recruit young ladies to a program. Who wants to play for a guy who's calling a woman a B word in front of other people in the year 2022? Adia Barnes de-escalated the situation at every single opportunity, and then they even had an embrace before the game. You know, deep down, Adia could say, yeah, I respect Kelly Graves. But do you really like somebody who just called you the B word and other names a couple weeks ago? I don't think so. Adia Barnes, I think, a classy gesture. And also, look, she wasn't perfect in this situation. Apparently, she threw out the middle finger and everything. But give her her due if you think she should get it this way for that, because she de-escalated the situation.
And as you explain that, Jason, it struck me. This is what just struck me. She took the high road. And you know why she took the high road? First of all, she did use the middle finger, so she can now, kind of say, okay, that's over. We're burying the hatchet. It's fine. But Jason, the recruiting wars don't happen on TV. The recruiting wars don't happen in front of cameras. The recruiting wars happen in the living rooms of these young women, and in the men's side, the young men, with their parents. And Adia Barnes can walk in and sit down and say, you know what, if it's between us and Oregon, that Oregon coach called me the B word. And she can win every recruiting war against Oregon from now on, because she's the one that took the high road. She's the one that was actually victimized by his foul mouth. And now I think that she's buried the hatchet, because they got to move on. They can't keep this can't keep going on and on and on every time they play Oregon.
Right.
But when they win the recruiting wars, that'll be a little part of it anyway.
Let's not take away from how well this team is playing. I mean, my goodness.
Exactly.
They just swept the Oregon schools. Coy Love, which was a little bit of a concern a couple of weeks ago, she came off the bench, is providing good minutes. Right now, I know we've got Araya Copeland, who's in a little bit of a slump. They're going to need her size down the stretch. But Lauren Ware is healthy. She's their best post defender. And Kate Reese, she has this presence about her where, like, she's not going to let the team lose. And it's the presence that Ari McDonald had last year. She's just been such a fantastic player for this team. And, very exciting here to have two college basketball teams. The men ranked 4th. The women, I think right now are 8th, I believe. Correct me if I'm mistaken. But, one in the top 5, another in the top 10. And
I think they might be 6th, actually. I think they moved up.
Thank you. Yeah.
Spots. Yeah. And their
They
net
were 8th for a
ranking,
couple weeks. Yep.
their net ranking is 7. So that makes you
Two
think they'll be a
seed,
2 seed.
two
Yeah.
seed starting in McHale Center for
Yeah.
the first
For the
couple
first
rounds
two rounds.
if the season ended today. And we'll get there when we get there.
Let me say this about
defense is where they win.
Yeah, it is. And let me say this about the way they're winning right now. And Adia Barnes pointed this out on Sunday after their win. She said, there's just something about when you're facing these teams now, they look at Arizona like they look at a Stanford or a South Carolina, or they used to always look at UConn, and probably they still do look at UConn. And that is, you're going to get the best game from everybody every week. It's not you're not the walkover anymore. You're the top. You're at the top of the heap. And so that's one element. But as you mentioned, Kate Reese has that. Oh, we're going to win this game. We're just not going to lose.
She
And
brings the intangibles.
she does, and I think that whole team kind of follows that. And that's what Adia Barnes said on Sunday was, yeah, everybody's gunning for us, but we have this mentality that says we're going to find a way, and we're not worried if we're down a couple or we're in this really tight game towards the end. We're going to find a way, and they have been finding a way. With the exception of the Stanford, they still got to get over that hump. They got closer. We'll see if eventually they can get over that hump.
And somebody else can also beat Stanford for them. It
could
work
happen
out that way too.
That could happen.
All right. So then something that happened yesterday, we talked a little bit about on K-Gun 9, talk about, immature behavior, if you will. Kyler Murray unfollows the Cardinals on Instagram. Now, I mean, come on. You're a grown man. You still play for the team. What are you doing? I mean, apparently he's unhappy about some type of contract situation. There really shouldn't be very much for him to be unhappy about. They've given him so many weapons. He's got all the toys there with the offense. Yes, this is the beginning of the period where he could start to negotiate a new contract, but it doesn't have to happen right away. And you just got to be patient. And to have some type of reaction where you're unfollowing the Cardinals, that's just not a good look, Pat.
And as you point out, it's like you break up with your girlfriend, and then what do both sides do? They not only do they unfollow, they scrub all the photos that you're in together, right?
I don't even know that adults do. I mean, that's after a while, I think, though. I'm not sure.
You're right.
I don't think that's like the next day.
But here's what it gets down to. Yes, he has one more year. They have an option, the Cardinals do, that they could make it 2 more years. He made $8.8 million this season. He's set to make $11.4 million next season. The top 10 quarterbacks all made over $30 million.
Yeah, but he's still in his rookie
deal. He's being told, you're one of the top 10 quarterbacks. You're not being paid like it. The Cardinals need to start this negotiation right now. And before next season begins, we're not going into that next season with one more year left on your contract with a potential to. We want a long-term deal in place. So that was his shot over the bow, if you will. That was his salvo saying, it's time to negotiate, Cardinals, and I'm coming in as a top 10 paid quarterback. We'll see. Cardinals could also.
That's not the way to do it, though.
No, I agree, but that's the Kyler Murray way of doing it.
The Cardinals paid big money for DeAndre Hopkins. If they think it's worth it, they'll do it.
Yeah, and maybe there would have been a better way to do it than this. But he sure got all of our attention, didn't he?
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, we're all talking about it.
All right. So, well, that leaves us Super Bowl here, 56. Bengals and the Rams. You got the young upstart team with Joe Burrow. You got a Rams team that was there a couple years ago, but with a quarterback, Matthew Stafford, who was in Detroit, finally gets to play for a winning team. You've got the Rams that are in defense. Von Miller's already been MVP of 1 Super Bowl, I believe. And they got a bunch of veterans who they've added. They certainly have been going for it this year by trading away draft picks for some of those players. I'll put we'll make you do the first prediction here. What's your Super Bowl prediction for Super Bowl 56? Second year in the row, a team is hosting. Don't discount that with the Rams hosting
that matters. That's for sure. There's a familiarity for the Rams. Not only a familiarity because they're playing in their own stadium, Jason, but a familiarity because they were just in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. Now it was a different quarterback. They've upgraded quarterbacks since then with Matthew Stafford. I like the Rams a lot in this game. I would never, ever predict a Bengals win because, as you know, I'm a Steelers fan, and there's no way I would ever root for the Bengals in any way, shape, or form. So my heart says, it can't be the Bengals. But I think logically, I also feel like the Rams have the better defense. I think they have the better offense. Are they as hot right now as the Bengals? I don't know. They started to play much better towards the end of the season, and they certainly are playing well here in the playoffs. So that's my prediction of the Rams winning, probably something like 35 to 24, something like that.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Rams, and here's my thinking. Joe Burrow was sacked more than any quarterback in the NFL this year. When do you see a guy who gets to the Super Bowl that happen? That can't be that often. He's sacked more than anybody else. The Rams pass rush can be terrific at times. They were there a couple of years ago. I think it's Matthew Stafford's time. I think it's going to be the story. I think he's going to win the Super Bowl MVP. And they're also, of course, playing at home. And yeah, you say, oh, the Bengals are young and they'll be back. You never know. You never know. Marino never got back.
Right.
You never know. But my hunch, and I've gotten so many Super Bowls wrong, that's why I don't say it with conviction, because I mean, you never know in these games. I never, ever, ever would have thought Brady would lose those 2 Super Bowls to the Giants. And I've gotten other ones wrong. So I'm not Mr. Don't put money based on what I'm saying here.
But absolutely
I'm going with the Rams. When you go to Desert Diamond to bet, don't say it because of Jason Barr. Do your own thought process here. I'm going with the Rams defense against the Bengals offensive line that has given up the most sacks of the year, and the Rams being home, and I'm going with the Rams.
Yeah,
and I'm not trying to overcomplicate it.
That's it. Don't overcomplicate it. But I do think the Rams are going to win as well. We'll see. Should be a good one. They rarely are.
35-24, so I'll just say 31-23.
All right.
Not very different, but I'm with you on that. All right. Any final thoughts? I know you're doing sports today on KGUN 9.
Yeah, you took the day off today, which is fine. That's great. Everybody needs a day off to recharge the batteries.
Well, it's not like an extra day off. It's just like
no. You worked yesterday.
Off, right? I got you.
I think I hope I'm like all the other Arizona Wildcat fans that are watching, or even if they're not watching. I can't remember a better 9-day stretch in U of A basketball in the last 5-7 years.
Especially with 4 games at home.
That's it. And it was a memorable stretch where they played some of their best basketball. There was frustration at times, certainly, but they ended up getting the job done and then some, and they've positioned themselves very well. Now it's time, though, for the men. They have to go on the road to the Washington schools and take care of business there, which they should, but you never know. And then, then it's kind of, I won't say it's downhill, but you can see the finish line once you get past these next couple of games, certainly at the end of the regular season for the Pac-12.
Yeah, we're not going to get ahead of things here, but the final weekend of the regular season are the 2 home games. I believe it's the Lute Olson night and then the home finale, which is the season finale for the regular season, where they could be cutting down some nets. We'll talk about that. Yep. We'll talk about that on another huddle. But for now, for Pat Parris, I'm Jason Barr. Thanks so much, everybody, for watching and listening here on the KGUN 9 streaming platforms. And we will see you on the KGUN 9 News and then back here next week at this time, Tuesday at 3 o'clock our time. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you later.